Greetings, friends. I am Matthew Knabe, licensed professional counselor. You are listening to Experience Emerge. Today we will dive into another conversation about the broken and fractured aspects of our lives. Then we will discuss how we put these pieces back together again to find rest and live free. C.S. Lewis once said, "Miracles are a retelling in small letters of the very same story which is written across the whole world in letters too large for some of us to see." In today's episode, we are going to explore a story in hopes to gain a little bit of perspective on those larger letters. On today's podcast, we're going to take a look at something our guest pursued over the past year that not only affected the one she is gifting, but herself. Winding down this year, we thought it would be nice to put a spotlight on thinking outside of the box this holiday season. I really like preserving people's legacy and keeping history of the people we care about and their lives. Our guest today, Nancy Larker, did exactly that. And I am so excited for you to hear her story and how it may influence others this holiday season to think outside of the box when gifting others. Here is Nancy's story.
My name is Nancy, and I am a wife and mother of three. My husband and I own a business in Akron, Ohio. It's a technology company, and I have a background in human resources and higher education administration. I've done some work with students and employers who are looking to recruit students, as well as alumni from the University of Akron. Part of what I love about my career experience and what I'm currently doing with our business is meeting people and helping them find a good career fit. That for me has always been a passion, is helping people to find that right career fit. And I was able to translate that into my current role as a business owner. And that's one of the things I love doing, is interviewing people and bringing them into our business or connecting them with other people in the community and being able to help them find their career.
Today, I've kind of put you on the spot because I'm the one interviewing you, and you actually like being on the side that I am. Nancy, just talk a little bit about, you and I were connected, a couple weeks ago. This is the first time we're actually seeing each other, and not in person, but like via Zoom. But we've been able to kind of connect on some similar interests. And talk to me about the journey that over the last couple weeks that kind of connected you and I.
Yeah, so thankfully for technology, we're able to do this today and meet face to face, even though we're not physically in the same room. But I think, when we were introduced, it was because, as you know, I go to Emerge for counseling services. And I was having a conversation with my counselor, and she was sharing with me that there's a podcast through Emerge Ministries, and I had no idea at the time. So when I was sharing a specific story with her, she said, "Gosh, that sounds like something that you should share with Matt. I think he would really find that interesting." And so she got us in touch, and I really am so glad she did, because I feel like since we've had a chance to connect, we've been able to learn a little bit more just about each other and our journeys and how we got to where we are and what our stories are. And that's part of what I love most, is just learning about people and their stories and how they get to where they are. So I stumbled upon Emerge about 2 years ago, and I started going there because I have had a struggle with depression and anxiety much of my life, probably most of my life. And it was not identified or acknowledged maybe until about 11 years ago, right after I had kids. And after I had my first son, I was suffering from postpartum depression. And that was when I originally started treating the signs of depression. Of course, as you know, being in the field of counseling, once you start that journey, you learn a lot more about where that stems from and what types of things we can do to manage that and work through it. I will say, and I know this is not exactly where we're going with this today, but I do think that it's worth noting, specifically with postpartum depression, that is a really important and very scary place for a lot of women. And I think it's just really important to mention that if there's somebody out there who is suffering from postpartum depression, or if there's somebody who is in your life that you know that may be suffering, or even if you're just questioning whether or not they're suffering, it can be critical to be able to get them to the resources they need. And I say that because at the time, I don't know that I even recognized it so much in myself, but I'm so grateful that my husband is the one who recognized it. And while at the time, I don't know that he was even sure how to approach it, or how to approach it with me, I should say, he went ahead and he connected with his sister, who thankfully she did know how to approach it. So between the two of them, they were able to get me the help that I needed and help me to connect with a counselor that was able to help me through that. And that started my journey with counseling. And, I've discovered that anxiety and depression, and I also suffer from some obsessive compulsive disorder, and being able to talk through that and recognize when those things are appearing again in my life, and being able to reconnect with the resources, whether it's through counseling or doctors, friends, whatever those outlets may be, is really key. So I say all of that to say, please, for anybody who feels that there's a need, then please know that there is always help there, and that all mothers should know that there's so much joy in motherhood. And when you're well and when you're healthy, that's when you can really experience that joy. So I did start my counseling journey 11 years ago, and then I connected really well with the counselor that I was working with, and she unfortunately is no longer practicing in the area. So then I for a couple of years was not talking with someone. And then about 2 years ago, I was starting to recognize in myself the need to get reconnected with somebody at some level. And thankfully, I found Emerge and connected with somebody there that I'm really happy to be working with.
That's awesome. I appreciate your transparency in that and being able to share that. I feel like we now have to do a second episode sometime in season 2, because I do think that's an important topic that we haven't really tackled. And I think, it's something that needs to be talked about. And the thing, Nancy, that I appreciated about you is we just kind of were connected through your therapist, and I wasn't sure, where that was going to go. And I don't know that you did either, but you started giving some really great ideas because your interest in the creative aspect of like podcasting and people's stories. And you've already given me a couple ideas that I think we're going to try to run with. But I want to talk about something specific that came up in one of our conversations, that you went on this journey. And I want to set this up because we're in a really strange year, but we're entering into the Christmas season, which I think is so important. It's a very familial time of the year, and this year is going to be different. With that being said, you shared a journey that you went on that I just thought was really incredible, and I really related to it. Without giving it away, I'd love for you to be able to share that experience and be able to allow the audience to kind of hear a way to preserve legacy.
Yeah. So last year for Christmas, there's always those people on your list. You just don't know what to get them. You know what I mean? And one of those people in my life is my husband's grandfather. He's 97. He's an amazing man. He has seen so many things in his life, and he's done so many things, and he's had such great experiences. And he doesn't need anything. He's 97. He has what he needs, right? And he doesn't want more. That's the other thing, I should say as well. And I've gotten him, various gifts in the past. But last year somebody had given me this really great idea about it for a gift. And I didn't know at first when she had shared with me what it was, who I was going to give it to, but then it clicked as soon as I thought, okay, I want to give this to someone. I was telling my husband about it. He's like, gosh, wouldn't it be cool for my grandpa if we did that for my grandpa? And he was right. So what it was is it's a story, basically. So I gifted him the ability to tell his story and to have all of his stories that he wants to share published into a book. So I went through a company it's called Storyworth. And what they do is they send him an email once a week, and that email is a question, and the question can be anything, and it is anything. They have hundreds of questions you can choose from, and I was able to select those questions, or you can write your own questions. But each week he would receive an email, and he would respond to that email. Would be just a small piece of the story, and he was able to get pictures loaded in there and share these series of stories that was prompted by these emails. So now, as the year is coming to a close, the stories have been collected, and we just completed the book, and it's being published now. But the part that was really exciting for me, and this is, I think, where you and I started our conversation, was I had the ability to help him from the technology standpoint. He needed some help with uploading pictures. And I should give my husband some credit too, because he also was very helpful in all of this. I certainly don't want to leave him out. But what we did was we started this summer when the weather was nice. We started going to his house, and we would sit outside and we would go through the pictures, and we went through some of the stories. We were loading these pictures, and we heard right from his mouth some of the most amazing experiences that he had, and we were able to capture those in writing, and now they're published in a book. It was just such an incredible experience, and I'm really excited because he then went ahead and purchased some of these books to give as gifts to his kids and grandkids, and they haven't seen this book yet. So I am the only one other than his grandfather who has read every single word of it from cover to cover, and I laugh in the same places, I cry in the same places. I've read it like 5 times, and I love it. And I love it because I can hear his voice telling the stories, and I love that I was able to be part of that journey with him. And I think what is so incredible about the whole experience is I didn't even realize that at Christmas last year, I was not just giving him a gift. I was really giving myself this gift as well. It was unexpected. I think, it's really cool because he may have felt a little overwhelmed and stressed out by it, but I was able to help him see that this was going to become something pretty amazing. And then of all years, we had no idea, of course, that 2020 was going to be the year it's been. And I didn't even realize until after the experience how incredibly critical my time was with him that I was spending this summer and into the fall, because I was slipping back into some of those dark places, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, during 2020, just being stuck at home and being in, just the 4 walls of my house and my kids, which again, I hope you're not hearing that.
Everybody gets it. It's fine.
Oh gosh.
They're not loud. They're fine, but trust me,
they're kids. But so here I am in 2020 and working from home. I have my 3 kids home doing schoolwork from home. My husband was working from home quite a bit, and we are just trying to juggle it. And then with all of that, trying to survive, right? So all of these things and just the weight of it all, I didn't even realize it because I felt like I was in that survival mode almost, but not intentionally putting myself there. Just, I was where I was. And I found myself when we were meeting with his grandpa, and I would spend, we'd spend hours at his house outside, and we would be there working on this book. I would come home and I felt like I didn't want to stop. I wanted to get back in there and work more on it and go through the pictures, and I wanted it to be perfect. And I felt such an intriguing connection, just both with him and then even with myself and just how I experienced the whole journey. And I remember the very last weekend that we met, he actually came to our house and we had a talk, and we were talking about just the whole experience, and he kept thanking me. I said, no, my goodness, this was my pleasure. Thank you. But I felt sort of sad when it was over. I didn't want it to be over. And I went back and I read the book probably 2 or 3 times after that day before I would submit it, because I was like, maybe it's not over. Maybe we can add more or do more. But he was done. He had had enough. And I keep teasing him. I'm going to buy him volume 2 for this year's Christmas. But yeah, so I think it's I think it's just a cool gift. And, while I did go through that particular company to do it, I think that's something that could be done without having to go through a company. That could be something people put together through, just on their own. That's something that can be done, or people could take videos and do like a video diary of someone's stories.
When the pandemic hit, there was something inside of me that knew this was going to be a opportunity for us to embrace this change or just fight against it. And what I mean by that is what you were able to do. And I can't tell you how many clients, especially in the very beginning of this, the first couple months of the shutdown and everything, I was like, now is the time to be creative. This is when some of the most beautiful things will come out of this, because we're forced to slow down and stop, take inventory of our lives, and really think about what's important. And what you've kind of done for your husband's grandfather is encapsulated into a book, a history that very easily can be forgotten. And I think probably why I relate to this so much, I have a 97-year-old grandfather, and this guy, he is something else. He has lived a life, and he has got stories. And I think I shared with you, my uncle did like a 4-hour video interview with him a couple years ago. And so on a different medium and on a different level, we were able to kind of capture that, and we all have that for the rest of our lives. And in a time where, there's so much that is negative and there's so much that can bring us down, doing something like this brings a little bit of joy to so many people who are involved. And I loved hearing about you feeling like, there's some tendencies of some of those depressions and anxieties to come in that you felt before, and you leaned into this project. And I just think when we are creative, beautiful things happen. If you were able to, how would you describe this process? How has it affected you?
I think it helped me get back to, it helped me realize some of my passions. I think that everybody, all of us out there in existence, we're all busy. We all have a million things going on. Whatever those things are, everybody has their stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And for me, it's running a business and with my husband. So, I work with him, I live with him, we run a household together as well as a business together. And it's my kids, and it's juggling all of that. And I think that as a parent and as a wife and as a business owner, I feel like because of all the busyness of life, you sometimes put those passions and things that just bring you that joy and excitement or just make you feel good, you put those aside because they're not necessarily or not always priorities. But in actuality, we should be making those priorities at least pieces and parts, right? Because we can get very overwhelmed with the busyness of life. And I think it's so easy sometimes to get lost in that. And while I certainly don't want to make it sound like I don't love the busyness of life, because I love all of those things that keep me busy. I love all of the experiences I'm sharing with my family and with the business. But sometimes just that day to day, you need to break free from that. And I think that is exactly where I was. And the day to day was becoming just more and more intense during the early days of the pandemic. And so just for me, it released sort of that ability to be creative, like you said, to use that creative outlet and just re-engage those passions of mine, which are really just hearing people's stories and learning about other people. And I got to learn about somebody that I love and respect very much, And I think for me also, it's a part of having that positive outlet. So there are certain things when I'm going through these little episodes of depression, or when I feel like I'm being weighed down by whatever I'm experiencing, there are certain things that I do that I either stop doing or that I need to start doing. So for example, I need to back away from social media when I'm going through one
Amen.
of those, right? For me, that is a trap in so many ways. And I think social media is great for keeping in touch with friends and family that we don't get to see often or talk to very often. But I think it's a trap, and I think that it can very easily feed into my cycles of depression. So I back away from that. And then, then I have to also find things that I need to do that are going to be an outlet for me to be able to feel better about myself. And we could all eat better and exercise more and those types of things. But for me, this ended up being that. And I didn't know that at the time. It wasn't until after I thought, gosh, this has really been such an amazing experience for me to be able to have this as an outlet. One of the other things that is great about this is it can be done really affordably. And for me, anytime you can give that gift of time, or just give the gift of being able to share experiences with people, it's taking it to, a completely different level of kindness almost. I don't even know if kindness is the right word there, but I feel like I would love for people to just consider what ways you could creatively give that gift of time this year, especially. I think there's things we can be doing like this, what we're doing right now. We're having a conversation over a Zoom meeting. We are physically, right, in air quotes, physically together and able to share in a conversation. And I think things like that are going to be really memorable. And anytime we can create memories like that, I think it's really important to find ways to do that. And whether that's with a grandparent or whether it's within your own home with your kids, it's the pandemic has also given us in our house a lot of good opportunities to create memories with our kids. I don't want my kids to look back at 2020 and say, oh my gosh, it was the worst year ever. I mean, yeah, there was a lot of tough stuff this year, right? But being able to find ways to create some memories with them and just being able to do that, I think that, like you said, is just preserving that moment in time and being able to hold on to that and give them something to give future generations something to hold on to as well. So I think just being able to do that in whatever capacity that is, and I think also reaching out to people this holiday season, even the people who you think are good and doing okay and well, sometimes they're the ones that have the hardest time when life isn't, exactly the way it seems to be.
Working with such a population that deals with anxiety and depression, usually one of the first things as therapists, it's about reconnecting. And that's usually one of the first steps that we'll see, because oftentimes when we start falling in depression, you're starting to see distance between yourself and the people who are close to you. And we were created to be in communion with each other. And when you start to kind of drift off, that's kind of like the sheep away from the pack. You're really easy to pick off. And so one of the things that I always want to do is reconnect people. Well, if there's any year that's been difficult to connect, again, we got to be creative. And being able to connect with your husband's grandfather like this, I mean, that had to have brought you guys, there's no way that doesn't bring you closer together. Right. In a year where all intents and purposes, we should have been further apart. So I think that's a really huge part of this story, is being able to do this and connect with people and learn about them and be inquisitive about their lives. It doesn't have to be a grandfather. You could do this with an aunt. You could do it with your kids. It doesn't matter. So I think it's a really great opportunity for us to look outside of the box this year and go, how can I connect with my loved ones in a way that maybe I haven't been able to do before, and might have to get creative with, because it's probably not going to be the traditional ways that we have done that before. But that's why I really picked up on your story of going, you know what, we need to hear this right now. Because a lot of what I'm hearing in therapy is Christmas is going to stink. It's not going to be the same. We can't do the same traditions. In our next episode, we're going to talk about Christmas traditions. And we're going to have Dr. Crosby and Pamela Crosby, who are the president of Emerge. They're going to come on and talk about tradition. But all of these things, we got a taste of that at Thanksgiving. And Christmas, I think, is going to be a tough one, especially for the kids. So, as parents and stuff, we have to be thinking about how do we make this still a memorable experience and not go, 2020 just stunk. So we're just going to write everything off. Christmas is off this year, because I hear those things from clients who are parents. And it's like, it's just going to be too hard. We're not doing it. And it's like, your story, I hope, inspires our listeners to go, you know what? We don't have to do that. We can think about it a little bit differently.
Yeah, I hope so. And I think just keeping in mind, everybody has a story. Everybody has something to share. Whatever it is, everybody's got something. And that's how we get to know people at a deeper level. And I think that a lot of people don't share their stories unless they're asked. But I think when we ask with good intention, we'll find that people really are open to sharing their stories, and we can learn so much from them. And, I learned so much from my personal experience with Chris's grandfather. And the only piece of it I regret is not doing it sooner and not learning all of these things earlier. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I am so grateful, so grateful that I have all of this preserved now and going forward, and for my kids and for their kids. And I think it's a good feeling to know that I connected with him on that level. And I can't wait to do it with somebody else. I'm already, who's the next person that I'm going to do this with? Because I really do think it's such a great way to connect. So 2020 doesn't have to totally stink. There were a lot of things about it that stink, right?
That's right.
It stunk, a lot of it.
Out of adversity, we find the greatest the greatest changes. When you look through history, it's when mankind has overcome the most difficult things that you see the most progress. And so I'll be interested to see what the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years looks like. And Nancy, thanks so much for sharing that and being here today. And I look forward to someday, me and my wife meeting you and your husband and your kids and our kids, like not like in real person, like hopefully that'll really happen on some level in some relatively short future. I'm hoping, but I appreciate you so much for doing this and your time and looking forward to continue having some conversations with you about some things that we've been kind of throwing around for our next season of the XM podcast. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I'm so glad I was able to be here today, and I hope that you have a Merry Christmas and everybody listening has a Merry Christmas.
This year has certainly been a year of adjustment, and I hope everyone this year is able to enjoy their Christmas and be connected. Nancy has really inspired me, and hopefully you as well. It is amazing how getting outside of yourself can help us through seasons of depression. Nancy and I spoke a bit after we recorded this episode, and she was a bit distraught that she didn't share enough about her faith. I assure you, she will have the opportunity in the future. So let's think of how to be kind or treat others to more than just gifts that quickly become obsolete by next Christmas. What Nancy has done certainly will bless her husband's grandfather, but all of the extended family for many years. Thanks, Nancy, for your inspirational message. As a reminder, Emerge is still collecting money and gifts throughout the month of December to raise $25,000 to gift foster families the parents who do not have the means for counseling. So if you're able to, visit emerge.org for more info on that. Well, my friends, until next time, or when our Savior comes, God bless.